Hi, second graders. It's Miss Tiao here, and I wanted to continue reading Mercy Watson Goes for a Ride. And so the last time I left off, you might remember that Mercy was in the front seat of the car, and I asked you to stop and think about how these characters are feeling. Today, I'm going to do the same thing where I might stop and ask you, how does this character feel and why? And when you answer the question, you're going to use the clues from the book. Okay, I'm going to continue reading from chapter 8 of Mercy Watson Goes for a Ride. Back on Deckwood Drive, Eugenia Lincoln was looking for Baby. She looked in Baby's bed. Baby wasn't there. She looked on the back step. Baby wasn't there either. "Baby!" shouted Eugenia. "Reveal yourself at once." But Baby did not reveal herself. "Where could she be?" said Eugenia. "And why do I think this has something to do with that pig?" Eugenia marched next door. She rang the Watsons' bell. And right now I'm going to stop and ask you, how do you think Eugenia feels and why do you say that? So you can say, I think Eugenia feels because. "Mrs. Watson," said Eugenia, "Baby's missing." "Goodness," said Mrs. Watson, "and I believe that your pig is responsible," said Eugenia. "Mercy," said Mrs. Watson. "Yes," said Eugenia, "exactly." "But Mercy isn't here," said Mrs. Watson. "She's on her Saturday ride with Mr. Watson." Eugenia turned and looked down the road. "Folly," she said. And again, folly means trouble. "Heavens," said Mrs. Watson. "You don't think—" "I do think," said Eugenia. "That is my point exactly. I do think, and apparently I'm the only one around here who does." I think they think that Baby is with Mercy. Chapter 9. Officer Tomalolo had to go very fast to catch up with the convertible. The officer had to speed. "Is that vehicle swerving?" Officer Tomalolo asked himself. "It is," he answered himself. "It is most definitely swerving." "Is the driver of that vehicle breaking the law?" Officer Tomalolo asked. "Without a doubt," he answered. "The law is being broken. It's time to take action." Officer Tomalolo pulled up alongside the car. He shouted into his bullhorn, "Pull over." The driver turned. The driver looked at him. The driver oinked. "Is that pig behind the wheel?" Officer Tomalolo asked himself. "Yes," he answered. "Yes, that pig is most definitely behind the wheel." Again, Officer Tomalolo shouted into his bullhorn, "Pull over. Pigs cannot drive cars. Pull over immediately." "He is absolutely correct," said Mr. Watson. "Pigs cannot drive cars, and I would like to pull over. But I can no longer feel my legs. Therefore, I can't step on the brake pedal. Therefore, I can't stop this car." "Oh dear," said Baby. "I think we're in trouble." Let's stop again. And just using the clues in the picture, how do you know, how does Mr. Watson feel? How does Baby feel? And then how does Mercy feel? And why? Chapter 10. Back on Deckwood Drive, Mrs. Watson invited Eugenia inside. "There's no point in worrying alone," Mrs. Watson said. "Come in and help me fix a snack for my darlings." Mrs. Watson brought Eugenia into the kitchen. "Will you help me butter some toast?" asked Mrs. Watson. "Toast," grumbled Eugenia. "Who cares about toast?" "Don't worry," said Mrs. Watson. She patted Eugenia on the back. "If Baby is with Mr. Watson, then she's just fine. Mr. Watson is an excellent driver." "He's a menace," said Eugenia. A menace is another word for troublemaker. "Pardon?" said Mrs. Watson. "Nothing," said Eugenia. She picked up a piece of toast. She applied the tiniest amount of butter. "Oh, heavens," said Mrs. Watson. "You have to put on more than that. Mercy likes a great deal of butter on her toast." "Who cares how pigs like their toast?" Eugenia said. There, said Mrs. Watson. I know that you're worried, but everything will work out. Baby will come home. In the meantime, why don't we just concentrate on our buttering? Toast isn't the answer, grumbled Eugenia, but she buttered another piece anyway. Chapter 11. You must stop the car, shouted Officer Tomalello. But I can't stop the car, said Mr. Watson. Oink, oink, said Mercy. She was having an excellent time. I have an idea, Mr. Watson, said Baby Lincoln. If you tell me where the brake pedal is, I'll apply it. The brake pedal, said Mr. Watson, from underneath Mercy, is the pedal to the left of the gas pedal. The brake pedal is the pedal that I do not have my foot on. Baby unbuckled her seatbelt. She climbed into the front seat. She put her seatbelt on. She slid as close to Mr. Watson as she could. She looked down. She saw Mr. Watson's foot. She saw the pedal next to it. I wonder, how will Baby get to touch the brake pedal? I've located the brake pedal, Mr. Watson, Baby announced. Excellent, said Mr. Watson. Now apply it. Baby stretched across Mr. Watson. I'm applying the brake pedal, Mr. Watson, Baby shouted. Hold on, everyone. So here we have our answer to my wondering. You can see she's really stretching her leg. Chapter 12. The car screeched, the car shuddered, the car careened, the car caromed, and finally, the car stopped. Mercy was very surprised. Suddenly, she wasn't driving the car. Suddenly, she wasn't even in the car. Suddenly, Mercy was airborne. Mr. Watson was wearing his seatbelt. He didn't fly out of the car. Baby Lincoln was wearing her seatbelt. She didn't fly out of the car. Officer Tomalello was safe in his police cruiser. He did not fly out of his car. Only Mercy flew. How do you think Mercy feels now in this picture, and why do you say that? You can use the clues in the picture to help you answer that question. Say Mercy feels because. Oh dear, said Baby. It's an emergency, shouted Mr. Watson. Alert the fire department. Was that pig wearing a seatbelt? Officer Tomalello asked. No, he answered himself. That pig most certainly was not. Have laws been broken here? Asked Officer Tomalello. Most certainly, most definitely laws have been broken here. Mr. Watson and Baby Lincoln and Officer Tomalello watched Mercy fly. They watched her land. Oomph. Mr. Watson got out of the car. He ran to Mercy. He wrapped his arms around her and held her tight. My darling, my dear, he said, please tell me that you are all right. Oink, said Mercy. She snuffled Mr. Watson's neck. Hooray, said Baby, she's fine. Oh, thank you, said Mr. Watson. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He bent his head and covered the tips of Mercy's ears with kisses. See him here, kissing her. You are a miracle, a prodigy, a dear, Mr. Watson said. You are Porcine Wonder. But even Porcine Wonders can't drive. In fact, Porcine Wonders should never be allowed to drive. Ever. Mercy sighed. She was glad the ride was over. She felt a tiny bit dizzy and a little bit dazed. Dazed means confused. She wanted very much to go home. Chapter 13. Eugenia Lincoln and Mrs. Watson stood together on the Watsons' front porch. They watched a police car pull into the driveway. Mr. Watson and Mercy and Baby Lincoln were all in the back seat. As I suspected, said Eugenia, trouble, folly, and that pig is right in the middle of it. Oh, said Mrs. Watson, my darlings, my dears. She ran out to the police car. I'm so glad that you're home. The toast was starting to get cold. Mr. Watson and Baby Lincoln got out of the car. We have had something of an adventure, Mrs. Watson, Mr. Watson said. Yes, said Baby, we have had an adventure, sister. Folly, replied Eugenia Lincoln. Yes, agreed Baby Lincoln happily. Folly. Laws have been broken, said Officer Tomalello. Pig, shouted Eugenia. Excuse me, said Officer Tomilello. It's all that pig's fault, said Eugenia. She pointed at Mercy. Mercy climbed out of the car. She put her nose up in the air. She sniffed. Could it be? Yes, it was. Toast. Toast with a great deal of butter on it. What could be better? It looks like Mercy only cares about that buttered toast. Chapter 14. Laws have been broken, said Officer Tomilello. Tickets must be written. Officer, do you like toast? Mrs. Watson asked. Toast, said Officer Tomilello. Do I like toast? Why, yes, I do. I do like toast. Why don't you come inside and have some? Asked Mrs. Watson. Why don't I come inside and have some toast? Asked Officer Tomilello. Said Officer Tomilello. I can't think of a reason not to. Lovely, said Mrs. Watson. She clapped her hands together. Right this way. What nonsense, grumbled Eugenia Lincoln. Toast is not the answer. No, sister, said Baby Lincoln, but it does smell heavenly. She took hold of Eugenia's hand. Well, said Eugenia, it has been expertly buttered. And so that Saturday, Officer Tomilello and Eugenia Lincoln and Baby Lincoln and Mr. and Mrs. Watson and Mercy Watson all sat around the table together and ate hot buttered toast. Did Mercy Watson have extra helpings? She did. And so did Officer Tomilello. The end. So that was the end of Mercy Watson Goes for a Ride. I hope you guys enjoyed it. At the end of this book, I want you to think to yourself, what was your favorite part of the story and why? So you can think, my favorite part of this story was when, and then you could say because. You can give a reason why that was your favorite part. And next week, I'll read a different book in the series of Mercy Watson. And we can kind of tell, sometimes in the back of the book, they do tell you, they give you a picture of what's to come. It's not in this one, so you'll have to wait and find out next week what's the next book in the Mercy Watson series. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. I'll see you soon.